Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Hello.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
And I'm Roy Cannaday.
And today, we're taking a look at Fossilis.
Uh-huh.
How do you pronounce this?
Yes.
Correct. Okay. So this game is from KTBG, Kids Table Board Games. And I'm always excited about their games because their production value is really off the charts at this point in time. Last year, Wreck Raiders was great. And it just seems like they keep doing that. And their games are solidly in that family weight game, but a little more.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good combination. And Josh Capel's artwork, it all ties together into something that I get excited about. And so this one excited me for that, but also the act of you reaching out to get a dino bone out of a dig site excited me for no good reason. So we all went into this with pretty high hopes, I think. I was pretty excited about it going into it. So let's take a look at how it plays, and then we'll be back.
The way you set this game up is you have a bunch of bones and hammers, and you're going to kind of just spread those around the different spots here randomly. Doesn't really matter that much. You're not supposed to take a look really too much where they are. And then you're going to put the lid on top of this. And, like Miss Swift, shake it up. And then you're going to put this piece in on the top. Like this. It shows you where the 4 starting rocks are going to go. So you put these rock tiles down. And then you'll randomly put a bunch of tiles on here to fill in all the spaces next to the rocks. So there are sand tiles and clay tiles. And you're just going to put all these tiles down like this. And then once you're done putting those down, you have a bunch of other tiles. You can put them pretty much anywhere you want as long as you don't put a rock on top of another rock. So maybe like this. So once all these tiles are in play here, at this point you're then going to pull. Let's get this right here. We're going to put this like this, and then we're just going to pull these off, and you'll see that all the tiles fall neatly into place. They're in the different spots here, and we're going to be digging through these tiles to find dinosaur bones. This top part, which I use, now becomes a scoring board for the players. It's also going to keep track of how long the game takes. There's a bunch of plaster here, 4 per player, and as this plaster is removed, once it's all removed, whoever's turn it is, you'll reveal the top event card, do that event, then put all the plaster back on top, again 4 per player. Keep doing that. After the 3rd event's revealed, you put all this plaster back, and when it's all gone, that triggers the end of the game. On a player's turn, they have 4 actions that they can spend. You can spend an action to take a plaster off the card. You can spend an action to move onto the board and move in any direction up or down on the tiles. You can also spend an action to add a sand tile to the board. There's sand, as tiles come off, they're put in a discard pile, so you can always put a sand tile on the board in an open spot. You can also push a tile that you're next to or even on top of. It costs 1 action to push a sand tile. It would cost 2 actions to push a clay tile, and it would cost 3 actions to push a stone tile. Stone tiles can push the other tiles that are sand, clay, sand, or other stone tiles. Clay can push clay or sand, and sand can only push sand. Now you'll notice here that as we are doing this, we're revealing bones and hammers. So players can also dig and try to get, for an action, and get a bone out. Not try, I mean you just reach in and grab it out. You need to be adjacent to the spot. Each of these is going to cost a certain amount of plaster, which is shown right here. You'll see teeth cost 2 plaster all the way up to skulls costing 6 plaster. Each bone you pull out is going to be worth a certain number of points at the end of the game. The hammer tokens, when you pull one of them out, you get to pick one of these tiles. You're going to put 9 tiles randomly on this board at the beginning of the game, and you get to just take one of these, which could possibly give you a special ability or maybe give you points at the end of the game. When you take one of these, you'll put it here in this slot. The 2nd and 3rd one you take, you can have up to 3, will make you lose those 2 and 4 points that you would get otherwise. Now, the reason you're pushing off tiles is to get the different resources that are on them. You'll keep that tile till you spend it. At the end of your turn, you can buy a card here. So I could buy a tool. You'll notice tools are worth victory points. And then you can keep these tools, and in the future, you can use them on your turn. Remove a clay tile. Slide a sand tile 2 space in any direction. These just give you extra plaster, and this one, for example, gives you a plaster and victory points. So these will be replaced as people take them, and you'll see they cost different amber, footprints, shells, or wilds. That's what the question mark means. You don't get change from using these, but you can spend them to buy a card on your turn. Players can also start working on a dinosaur on their turn. Each player has a spot to put a dinosaur in their lab. To take a dinosaur, you need at least one of the bones that dinosaur has. So I could take this one, which would complete that dinosaur, or I could take this one, for example, the Diplodocus, and this rib cage here, which, as you might have seen here, is going to be worth 3 points at the game. If I assign it to this dinosaur, you need to assign at least one bone to a dinosaur when you take it, it's now worth 6 points. I can add more dinosaurs too here, and if I get all 3 of them, you'll notice that normally they would be 18 points. 9 if you don't put them on the dinosaur at all. But finishing the dinosaur gives you 24 points. So that's quite a few extra points. Dinosaurs also have traits, and these come into play at the end of the game. You don't have to finish a dinosaur. You can take another dinosaur, but once you stop working on a dinosaur, they get set to the side, and you can't add bones to them later. I already told you how the end of the game triggers. At the end of the game, you're also going to score points for all your leftover bones. Skulls are never used in dinosaurs, but they're worth 12 points each. You'll get points for dinosaurs finished or not. You also will score points if you have 3 of the same symbols on your dinosaurs, and it shows you how many points you score. So you can see, for example, I have 3 of the carnivorous dinosaurs. I would get 3 points. I have 3 of the herbivores, so I get 4 points from that. I have 3 of the seas, so I would get 6 points for that. Then whoever has the most of these in each category gets 3 points, and if you have all 9 symbols, you get a bonus of 12 points. Those will be added, plus these if you haven't covered them up, and whoever has the most points is the winner. We're going to talk about the components as a group together, so I'm not going to talk about them too much, but I just wanted to show you all the dinosaur art here. And then again, I want to remind you about this. This is really cool. Now, I will say, and I know we're going to talk about this, that if you're looking at this from an angle, it's hard to see, so you will have people who are standing up to look down in here to find where the bones are. And everyone I asks if it's like Operation because of this. But other than that, really good components. The whole game itself, well, I'll tell you some more in just 1 second.
Now, I love all those components I just showed you. I think are really fantastic and really good. I have a few minor quibbles with them, but the biggest one is the thing I showed you there. It's you got to be careful what table you put this on and who you put it on. I had people, actually, I played with one person got up on the table to look down. We just got to the point where we would move it to whoever's turn it was so they could look in and see the bones. That's not a dexterity game, but it feels like it was meant to be one. It's kind of a weird thing. It's just take the bone out you need. And the bones, when they're all in the pile, look the same. So if you had to reach in without looking and pull a bone out, and that's the one you got, that would make sense. But since you can choose what you're getting, it's kind of a weird thing. Other than that, the production is amazing to me. That was my one problem. What did you think, Z?
I agree with you about the dexterity pseudo vibe going on there. I ended up doing like a push back and forth. And it kind of gets old a little bit, absolutely. And that's from a really cool component that then you have to do it's a form over function, right? It's that idea of like, yeah, but look at how cool these bones are, and you shake them up and they're in these places. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then you got to like drag this thing or jump over it and try to get in there, I think that's a small weakness of the game. I also thought the screen printed sand and stone and all that, I'm a little worried about longevity there. I'm a little worried about those clanking up against each other, maybe scraping a little bit. We'll see. That one I can't make that call yet because I'm thinking a little longer term. But the base, the molding, the way the whole thing is comes across as a thematic construction is neat. So I like overall the components here. Mike.
Yeah, I have some similar thoughts to this. There's this undeniable, really cool toy factor to the game, right?
Yes.
There's just no question about that. When you're setting the game up, or when you're watching somebody set it up, there's this feeling of anticipation. You're just like, oh, this really is cool. I was excited about being able to interact with those components. Then, once you got playing the game, there were some usability concerns, some of which have been already mentioned. There really is that odd idea of, why am I using these tweezers to pick out bones if I know exactly what I'm going for? It seems like there's a little bit of a thematic thing they're reaching for. I don't hate it because I love the theme, but it is a little bit of a usability concern. And so, not to belabor that was my biggest concern. The looks, the feel of the components were all top notch, but it did get in the way a little bit. Roy, did you have a similar thought?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel slightly the same way. It didn't bother me too much overall with everything. I feel like the aesthetics of the game and the theme of the game, it helped make all that shine through. But like you said, you do have to get up and look over into the ice cube tray type thing almost, that it's like as you're digging the different pieces out. I was surprised that there are so many bones in each of these things, because I thought you were going to be digging and trying to find more going into the game. But it was kind of interesting how there's you move these tiles around, and the aesthetics of that, and pushing people off the board and things like that, shifting these tiles around was a very unique, interesting mechanics with the way that all that stuff came together.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about briefly was who the game is for. So I've played this multiple times in different groups. I played it with the heaviest of gamers, and I played it with my kids. And then I played it with Mike and Ryan. I don't know where that counts. But, well, I'm just saying, I don't know. But I think it seems to work better geared younger. Again, that makes sense. It's called Kids Table Board Games. That's the name of the company. And they were not as annoyed. The heavy gamers were like, we're getting into this, game's over. They felt it was a little short. That just when you were starting to get stuff together, the game was over. I feel like the game's at pretty good length myself, although players can manipulate the length of the game if they want to. I'm just going to take lots of plaster and run this game out. But when I play with the kids and stuff, that worked better. And I think with people looking for a more medium weight style game, that's not going to bother them as much. What did you think about the game, Mike Z?
I'll tell you, this is that question you posed. Who is this game for? I like this game. It's my biggest concern. And I know it's an abstract philosophical concern. If the game sells 1 million copies, I'm a dummy. Because obviously it was for somebody and they sold a bunch of them, okay? But from a point of view of recommending this to someone, which is ultimately what we're doing here, whether we do that or not, I think this game has an issue of identity. I really do think that, okay? It's a game that has a high toy factor, like Mike said. But it's got way too many rules. Too many rules exceptions. I mean, the explanation of how you can push a tile is a page. There's a page with examples, but a page of you can push one. And if you push someone else, they fall out. If they are on top of it, you can also push them. If there are 2 tiles, you can't push that. But you can jump on top of this one and push that one, which then would fall down. I mean, there are so many little rules in this game. But it's supposed to be like this goofy, ooh, a bone. I go in there with my little toy and I grab it out. So that's my biggest concern with it. That the audience is going to be cool with all the rules, but then they go and they move a tile and go, oh, it's random. It's like pulling tokens from a bag in Thebes. If you know that reference, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, I only got dirt. Okay, great. And then the opposite side of that is, I think a lot of the people that enjoy the little dexterity cuteness of it, all those rules are going to weigh down the experience.
We should quick jump in here and say that there is a way you can delete a lot of those rules. It's written in the rules, a way to dumb it down for kids. It almost makes it too simple. I had to play with. I think I could cut out some rules. I might even simplify the sliding rules. I think they're the most complex of the game. Just say you can slide a tile, one space in a direction.
Anyway, that's kind of where I'm at in my head. Mike, what do you think about that question?
Yeah, this is really my kind of bugaboo with this game too, because like you, I think that the game itself is solid. It's a game that I enjoy, but my biggest issue lies in this question of who's most likely to play this game? Who is it really kind of being marketed towards, it seems to me? And that's going to be younger gamers and families. And one of the questions that I have, and this is not a definitive thing, I haven't played it enough, but I have a strong suspicion that the way the scoring works in the game, that if you choose to complete a dinosaur, which means that each dinosaur needs a certain kind and number of bones, if you choose to do that, I'm not sure that that's the best way to score well in the game. And I think if you're a kid playing this game and you've got a dinosaur in front of you, a dinosaur card, you're going to want to complete that dinosaur card. I think there's just something. What's that? Okay.
Actually, know the answer to that question.
Okay.
And it depends on the kid.
Okay.
That's just the way it is. Some kids are going to do that. Other kids are going to want as many dinosaurs as they possibly can get. Some kids finish their homework. Some do enough to get by.
Okay. Well, that's fair. When I was playing the game, and I'm certainly not a kid. I'm the furthest from a kid of the four of us.
I like to agree on that. Anyone else?
Yeah. Put it all down. But I was thinking to myself, if I was a kid, I would want to complete this dinosaur. I'm not going to want to feel like I'm only 1/3 of the way through it. I'm going to want to keep going. It needs a head, or it needs a rib cage. I need to get that rib cage. Again, maybe that's the gamer in me, seeing that there's a disconnect between what you're being asked to do and what actually gets you the most points. Mm-hmm. It just ties into this bigger issue of I'm not sure exactly who the audience is and who it's being marketed to. But Roy, you've got small kids. Is this something you would consider playing with your kids?
I think it's definitely way too much going on in the rules factor to play with my kids overall. I never even thought about bringing this out with them. It definitely feels like you're going to have to it's with all of the rules added in there, it's very much more of a gamer's game. And I also found it very interesting, like you said, with the points, it's like the in-game scoring points for all of those different types, like forces you to try to churn out dinosaurs as fast as possible to min-max your points. Also, it seems like some of the best strategy in the game is to just uncover a thing and then grab bones out of it and build as many dinosaurs as you can as fast as possible. The action economy seems kind of interesting. It's like the whole grab plaster, get a bone, do this, do that. There's a bunch of cool strategies that are in the game that I found not necessarily the best thing to do. It's like you can get these cool items, but you can only kind of use them once. So it's like they're worth a little bit of points, but probably you just want to grab dinosaurs as fast as possible, so you're just wrecking everybody in that in-game scoring. So I did a lot when we played the game. Mike and Tom were jumping back and forth and moving tiles and pushing everybody around, and I basically stood in the same few tiles and just grabbed bones. Got plaster, grabbed bones. Got plaster, grabbed bones. And the game was close, so it wasn't very close.
True.
No. The fact that Roy just talked about, I was laughing because you just used the words action economy for this game.
That's basically what this game is,
you have
right?
Tweezers. You also have tweezers, and you're pulling little plastic bones
out
of holes.
Right. Yeah.
I have an issue with those two things. They're at odds in my head.
I really just want this game to be more fun and silly, like you're saying, and feel more family weight. But it definitely feels like the way the mechanics of the game are. It's very much just okay, maybe it's just trying to. If you're trying to min-max your points, you very much have to play it a certain way, which is not going to have you running around doing a bunch of crazy stuff. You're going to be just trying to figure out how to min-max those points, which is very weird for this style of game, I think. But,
Well, I might argue that, that's maybe the game isn't meant to be played that hard, if that makes sense. I don't know how else to describe it, but I don't know. I think it's maybe more group dependent in that way. But Roy, what's your final thoughts and rating of the game?
I think overall, I actually still really enjoyed the game. I'm giving it a 7.5. I still thought it was fun, and I really enjoyed the unique theme of pulling up the dinosaur bones and the aesthetics of pulling the stuff out. And I do enjoy doing all the different stuff. It's just, it's going to be a game that you're going to have to play more with like a game group as opposed to like having a family game night with younger kids. I mean, middle-aged kids or like preteens and teenagers might be able to get it perfectly fine, but you're not going to be able to play this with younger kids at all. But I enjoyed our play of it, and I could see playing it again. I had a lot of fun with it.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, this is you talked about other games that this publisher has done, and Rec Raiders had a similar thing where it was a little bit thinkier than it would appear when you played it. But I think that the gap between that is larger in Fossilis. It's still a game I think is really good. I just wonder if the group that's going to get the most out of it are going to be willing to play it because it has such a high toy factor, and it looks like a game that really is maybe focused more on family and children. Overall, though, I don't want to fault the game's mechanics and the actual experience that you can have in this game just because of a disconnect between that. So while it factors into my rating, I'm still going to give it a 7. I still recommend it, but I really do think that it's something that people need to be aware of. You don't want to play this, I don't think, with small children. I just don't think it would work well.
All right, Z?
I have a sneaking suspicion that people are going to watch this video and comment. They raged on this game for 15 minutes, and then all of them gave them pretty decent scores.
Right.
I'm also giving it a 7, by the way. I think the reason for that, if that's how this is coming across, is because we feel this could have been a 9. Okay, yeah. But it fights with itself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's having a little bit of an identity crisis. That's how I see it. Okay. Is the game fun? I had a blast playing it. Sure. There's a decent amount going on, and just every now and then, an annoyance that gets in your way. Having to move the thing towards you to look down into a hole. Having to look up the rules of how tiles slide for the 3rd time. Those things. I think there is a bit of an identity crisis. Right. If you are a gamer, I think the best advice I can give you is, if you are a gamer who has no issue with game weights, you'll sit down and play Yahtzee, you'll sit down and play Lisboa. You don't care. And you like high cute factor, you're going to dig this game. I really think so. But you got to know going in that you are, that you enjoy, that you're that kind of player. So 7 for me.
That actually that is who this game is for. It's the Omni gamer then.
Right.
It's someone like me who likes stuff all over the scale per se, and doesn't, I can kind of play the game at the weight that it's meant to be. Mm-hmm. And so I think I give this the highest rating of all of us, an 8, actually. Mm. I really like it. I went in predisposed to like it because I love dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And I love that this game is really themed strongly. My biggest negative about the game is actually, Z mentioned, the tile sliding. I feel like they should have just almost cut out the 3 different weights and the fact that you push other tiles, because that almost means nothing. Why would I push a stone tile 3 to then just knock a sand tile off? It just isn't worth it to me. I'd rather knock the stone tile off so I have the more resources to buy the cards. Just minor things like that. And I'm also not sure the math behind all the points, but I'll just accept that that's probably correct. But I really liked it. And I was going to say the same thing Z said. I know people are going to watch this and go, you said it was bad and you gave it good ratings. Well, we're just pointing out the things that we found in there. But this is a game that to me is more than the sum of its parts. Mm. Yes, I could say, but when I was done, I was like, I'll play it again because I enjoyed it. Sure. And there's a lot of games where I might say this is neat, and when it's over, I go, I don't feel like playing it again. This was the opposite. This, I said, I didn't like that or that, but I want to play it again. Mm-hmm. And that's the mark of a good game. Hopefully, though, this review is here not to pan or to say the game's great. Hopefully, you can watch the whole thing and see if it's for you. That's what we want to do anyway.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So it definitely hasn't diminished my thoughts on KBT. I keep getting these names. KTBG games. I mean, they got Creature Comforts coming out next year. I'm pumped about that. I'm pumped about any of their future games because they just look that good. So, anyhow, there you go. That's Fossilis. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Thank you.
I'm Mike Delisio.
And I'm Roy Kennedy.
and welcome to 2021.